This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Kicking off hour 2 here at Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Bonantoni, live as always, downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Plenty of NBA and NHL postseason talk still to come this hour. We'll also break down the daily Major League Baseball card, best bets at the end of the hour. And we're going to kick things off in the association. Excited to have Mitch Lawrence join us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Host the starting lineup on Sirius XM NBA Radio. Can also catch him on Mad Dog Radio. And we were just talking about this a little bit off air. The NBA postseason has gotten off to a very weird but exciting round 1 start. You have the Timberwolves and Lakers both advanced despite having serious and significant injuries. The 76ers and Pistons both come back from down 3-1 to win their series. I don't know who had the Cavs set going 7. So, Mitch, should we expect this chaos and fun to continue?
Probably. Unfortunately, guys, there were 13 or 14 pretty significant players who either missed part or all of their first round series, from guys like Luka Doncic and we obviously Joel Embiid come back, but where did Jason Tatum end up? He ended up sidelined as he started the season. So unfortunately, the nature of the game these days is you hold your breath every time out because you don't know who's going down to injury. So that plus we're going to have some excellent, there's some great second round series. Obviously the big, Oklahoma City and San Antonio look like short series to me, but the Knicks and Philly look like the revival of one of the great rivalries in the NBA over the years. And the addition of Joel Embiid to that Sixer team really makes them a dangerous club, as Mike Brown probably fears going into the second round.
Yeah, let's expand on that. Dangerous to what level? They are very talented. Could they win the Eastern Conference? Where do you stack them up?
Well, they could. Of course, it's going to be a much different opponent for Philly in this second round. Boston defensively didn't have any answers for Maxey late in that game and Joel Embiid. They really didn't go at it Joel Embiid like you thought they would by running him against him and getting involved in pick and rolls, which he can't defend. They were just chucking up threes. I think the Knicks and Mike Brown you're going to see guys like Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns force Joel Embiid to defend, because after all, let's face it, he hasn't been back that long. And you got to test his – I know he's played a few games, but you got to go after him in terms of his history of not being a great defender in terms of that, the pick and rolls, but also just where he is in his conditioning. So I think Embiid could obviously have a huge impact at the other end, because you're going to have Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson, a combination defending him. And Boston didn't have any answers there. I think the Knicks stack up pretty well against him in terms of their size. But also, let's remember, Atlanta didn't have any real perimeter guys except for C.J. McCollum, who's in his 30s. Now they got to go up against Tyrese Maxey, and they got to go up against, Edgecombe. And this is going to be a much different animal for the Knicks in terms of their defense and how they deal. And, it's a real luxury for Nick Nurse when Paul George is like your fourth option out there. But Embiid, as an you're adding a guy who's been an MVP. Now, he's obviously plagued by injuries. The reliability is always a question with him. Who knows if he'll be able to play in this entire series? If he does, he gives Philadelphia a great chance to spring an upset and advance.
All right, I'm going to hit you, Mitch, with some breaking news coming down about 30 seconds ago from Shams Charania. Minnesota's Anthony Edwards expected to play tonight in Game 1 against San Antonio. Yeah, he's received medical clearance to get final sign-off after his pregame routine. Assuming this all goes through and he plays here, how does that change this series for you with Ant being available Game 1?
Well, first of all, it's great news that a guy like Anthony Edwards is back on the court for the league, for the fans, and for Chris Finch in Minnesota, because they need him. I'm still going to pick the Spurs. I was picking them in 5 over Minnesota. Could I give Minnesota another game because of Ant? I don't know if I'll go that far, but he makes them a lot better. Now, they're still missing Dante DiVincenzo. We got to look at Ayo Dosunmu, how his impact is going to be, but it starts with Anthony Edwards for Minnesota to give them any kind of chance to win these games, because right now you saw San Antonio. Now, they played a play-in team in Portland, and Minnesota is a much better team. They've got some history. They have a track record. Their guys have been to Western Conference Finals. They've got more playoff experience. But I still think San Antonio, as long as Victor Wembanyama plays, I think that they're going to be too much for Minnesota to handle. But getting back to Anthony Edwards, if he's back and he can play and give them, 25 to 30 points, that's a lot to ask against that defense. But if he can be a big-time scorer, that has to make the games even more competitive. If they didn't have him, Minnesota would be obviously in serious trouble. But here, anything can happen. I still think, though, the Spurs are the team here, and I'm looking forward to already Spurs Oklahoma City in the Western Conference Finals.
Well, this game one that's coming up tonight between San Antonio and Minnesota, we saw when the news was out there that Anthony Edwards could potentially be playing, came down from 13.5-point spread to 11.5. It just repopulated at 10.5. Do you think that this continues to come down with this news? No. I think what's going to happen is we'll see how he does. We'll see how that knee. Well, look, they might clear him. He might play. We'll see if he's limited, if he's compromised at all off this knee. Hopefully he won't be, but I can't tell you that he's going to be 100% Anthony Edwards. I think we'll see that reflected, Stormy, in game two, in the line, what happens in game one, how he moves, how he's able to perform at a high level if he is. Then we might see if he's not, the line comes down for the second game. But it's very interesting that the line is coming down because he is a significant player. He's the best player Minnesota has, right, going forward.
Sorry, I was trying to find the latest on Ayo Dosunmu, and there's some conflicting information out there to see whether or not this is going to is available. That's a big law.
Listen, they don't have Dante DiVincenzo, who's like a real glue guy. You saw what Dosunmu did in the series against the Nuggets when he had that 40-plus point game. He's been a huge addition. So Minnesota goes in here, it's hard enough at full strength to deal with the Spurs. They're going in there with, we'll see how Anthony Edwards is. We'll see if Dosunmu plays. You're not going to see DiVincenzo. They're behind the eight ball in this series, Minnesota, for sure.
All right, let's go back to the Eastern Conference. Cavs, Pistons looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. Much different opponent for Detroit after a grinder of a series against the Magic. How do you think this plays out? This looks like it's going to be a pretty tight, long series.
Well, I got Detroit in 6. And I think I'm a little concerned about Cleveland in terms of their toughness. I think they answered some questions in the first round against Toronto, but Toronto didn't have Brandon Ingram. They didn't have Quickly. So that's, hey, they took advantage of that. Just as Detroit took advantage of the Magic not having Franz Wagner, which was a huge loss because without Franz Wagner on the floor, Cade Cunningham did whatever he wanted to against the rest of the Magic pretty much for the last couple of games. So I think Detroit is going to be – listen, I can't sit here and tell you that Tobias Harris is going to go for 30 points a night in these games because what he did yesterday was an outlier in terms of his career. He's been in large part a playoff disappointment in a lot of big spots, and yesterday he answered the bell. He was phenomenal shooting, 11 of 18, 5 of 7 from threes. He was really the guy because you're worried about the Pistons. We might have talked about this earlier. The thing you always worry about the Pistons is after Cade Cunningham, who is your second scorer? And, they have a lot of guys who you can roll out there, but they have to answer the call and they have to prove themselves. And yesterday, Tobias Harris was that guy. So Cleveland has to hope that they can shut down a guy like that and make somebody else beat them. And we don't know if it's Duncan Robinson or whoever. Durant had a tough, very brutal series in a lot of ways. He didn't answer the bell against the Magic, and they got away with that. Now he goes against some bigger guys in Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. It is a good competitive, this is a good rivalry type of series that goes back years. But I just don't know, and yesterday, the thing about that kind of, I was worried about Cleveland, that yes, they won game 7. It was home. Listen, James Harden and Donovan Mitchell did not have great games. And when is it going to be where these guys are going to come out and really show you a sense of urgency? They have to show that in this series. I didn't see that yesterday in game 7, but Jarrett Allen played the game of his life, with the 19 rebounds and had the 20, 21 points, whatever. So that helps. But Detroit's, this is going to be another test for Cleveland. They don't have the home court. And as we saw, they didn't win on the road in the first round. We'll see if they can do it in this round. But overall, Cleveland's toughness to me is an issue. Detroit's got that toughness. They've got that grit. To me, it's all about who else besides Cade can score. Because I don't know if Cleveland has somebody who can stop Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, your comment on Cunningham, though, well taken. That's been JVT's biggest gripe about this Pistons team all season is if he's not scoring, who is it going to be? Last thing before we let you go, last 60 seconds or so, you said you're already penciling it in. Spurs, OKC, next round. How many games does this thing go with the Lakers?
4. I don't see the Lakers winning a game. You noticed J.J. Redick to the media was already complaining about Oklahoma City's defense. Yep. And that was done to get the referees, to get the league, get the referees' attention. I'm sure they sent tapes in of Oklahoma City's. They've got a great defense. They're handsy. They use their tenacious. They're physical. I'm sure the Lakers have probably sent in advanced tape so that the officials see that and start calling fouls, but it doesn't work. Oklahoma City's defense is just lights out. And you know what? I saw earlier a note that LeBron James is the only player in history to be swept in 3 different decades, 07, 18, and 23. And now he'll add to, I think, unfortunately for him, I think he's going to lose in 4 here to an Oklahoma City team that, even without Jay Williams, guys, they don't look like anybody's going to beat them.
Mitch, great breakdown. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Had fun, guys. Thank you.
Thank you as always.
Mitch Lawrence, Sirius XM NBA Radio. Can also catch him on Mad Dog Sports Radio.
So some clarity, and I'm a little irritated. So the Timberwolves, you have to update your injury report at this time of the day every 15 minutes. So at 12, they updated their injury report with Ayo Dosunmu questionable, and then 2 minutes later tweeted out that he was out.
Jeez.
So Ayo Dosunmu is not available today for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Good to note. Also good to note, the market agrees with Mitch on this Lakers OKC series. The favorite is at plus 120, a Thunder sweep, 4-0. They're minus 1,600 for the series at large. We got to step aside. More money moves coming up after this on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit is due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're probably getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. But there's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month for just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on an annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, now back to the show.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Let's get into it. Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel. What's so funny? Why are you always laughing?
Just you. I know what your current plight is right now, and it's just funny to hear you talk with just pain and discomfort in your voice. So you're really high on Atlanta. You love this team. They've won 3 straight, 6 out of 7. Your husband is a big Braves fan. On Friday night, was out with him and watched as the Rockies blew a 6-0 lead and lost that game to the Braves, and you've got a hot angle here on Atlanta today.
That's not correct. I was curious your opinion on something about this game, actually, but thank you very much. Actually, it's more big picture about the Braves, but considering the plight that they have had each of the last couple years and being held out of the postseason last year, for them to be playing as well as they are this season, and I mean, best record in all of baseball right now, they've got an 8.5 game lead in the division. Are they officially back? Like, should we believe what we're seeing with the Braves to this point?
Well, you asked that question, a day or two removed from Ronald Acuna Jr. hitting the 10-day IL with his hamstring.
Well, and their rotation has had injuries and issues as well. Like, they're not without injuries this season either.
But I do think, like, generally that they're going to be in a good spot. The other spot is, I believe, or the other bit of news is that I believe that was the same day that they reinstated Spencer Strider. So, you lose one thing, you get another. And so I do think that is big picture, this team I think is going to be a playoff team. I don't think you're saying anything out of the ordinary. The real question is this lead going to hold in the division? I would think yes. I mean, Miami right now is a second place team. They're 16-18 with a -1 run differential. They're the only team, Atlanta, right now with a positive run differential in the division as a whole. So Mitch asked this. I don't know why it's pretty lazy. I don't know if he'll turn this around that quickly, but we recorded Pod to the Futures earlier today, and one of the questions that Mitch asked was, of these odds-on favorites and division leaders, do we have quite a few that are already wrapped up? And it would seem Atlanta is one of those, that we have this division almost wrapped up at this point with an 8.5 game lead, even this early into the season. And I would generally say yes, unless they're going to just get demolished with injuries. Luckily, the Acuna stint doesn't sound like it's going to be insanely serious, so we'll see if that actually happens. Strider back. Offense is great. Division stinks. I do think that they're at the very least priming themselves to get a comfy lead and a comfy road to the NL East. And then we'll see what they can do from there once they get into the postseason.
The other odds-on favorites in their respective divisions, the Yankees -295 in the AL East, the aforementioned Braves -525, the Cubs -135 in the NL Central, so not as far of a runaway as the Dodgers are at -1100 there.
Despite only a 1.5 game lead over your Padres.
Pod Squad. They're very up and down right now.
All you need to know about the Padres is, actually, it's a half game lead, excuse me. All you need to know about the Padres is that they're 20-13, and yet they've been outscored by a run so far this season.
They get me excited just to crash and burn and hurt my soul. But back to the Braves here, at least real quickly, because today they are a road dog as they kick off a 3-game set with the Mariners. They actually have to, once this series is over, then have to go visit the LA Dodgers for another 3. So keep that in mind as you're looking at the schedule. But J.R. Ritchie going for Atlanta, +119 dogs. Logan Gilbert on the hill for Seattle, -143 favorites right now. Low total at 7.5. I know Seattle will be without Brendan Donovan for the series, but worth noting he is set to begin a rehab assignment this week and will hopefully rejoin them in Chicago over the weekend.
Yes, indeed. I didn't really have anything on this game, though.
Which game did you?
All right, so there's a couple, I think, interesting contests here today. We can start with the headliner. Jose Soriano starting today. I mean, come on now.
Obviously. And so with that, the Angels are favored despite all of the issues that they've had recently. And Soriano coming off of his worst start of the season. So
still, though, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit. You were acting like my man got shelled here.
I didn't say that, but am I inaccurate in my statement?
I mean, yeah, when you have an ERA that's under 1, any other thing is going to be the worst.
All I was doing was spitting facts, JVT. Don't be so angry.
Here's, I think, the important point for Soriano is we talked about, if you go back to the start against Toronto, and it was a little bit against San Diego as well, but you've started, and this has kind of been his thing throughout. Like, the command has been a little wonky for the most part, but he's not going as deep. Remember the beginning of the year, 6, 6, 8, 7. Those were his first 4 starts. He was pitching deep into these games. His last 3 starts, 5 2/3, and then 5 each. So he's starting to labor a little bit. The pitch count, I think, is getting up a little bit as well. So he's not going as deep into these games. You mentioned the worst of the start, which was at Chicago against this team. He goes 5, faces 23 batters, gives up 6 hits, walks 3, strikes out 6, gets taken deep twice. So he is going to be mortal. And I think that they're probably trending in that direction, which is, look, his ERA is 0.84, fielding independence at 289, expected FIP is still under 3. He's a very good pitcher. But I don't think you're expecting him to go super deep anymore. Now the question becomes, given how bad the bullpen is and where you're pricing Soriano, which I think for the most part is correct, would it behoove you to actually start to play against him? We brought this up in the Chicago White Sox start, the Toronto start, and now here you are again with one more. And I think you would probably make the argument that from a pricing standpoint, I think you'd rather go against full game. You'd rather go against the Angels here if you're getting a pretty decent price coming back at you. Right now, if you look around the market, talk about like +136, +135. You know, if that ticks up a little bit more, I would take a piece of that. For what it's worth, some spots like Circa opened up at -155, ever so slightly nudged down on the favorite price. I just think that we're probably at the point where it's either just where it should be priced or maybe a skosh too high, given everything that we know about this team, which is not good, by the way.
You always seem to want to talk about Rockies games when Tomoyuki Sagano is on the hill, and he is once again today against the Mets, +119 dogs. New York here, -143 road favorite. High total here at 10.5.
I mean, the question is just, come on now. When is this dude going to pay? the bill will come due.
I'm telling you, every time. It's so funny.
284 ERA, a 473 fielding independent for our guy, Tomoyuki Sagano, a 446 expected FIP. You look at some of the numbers for him, and we'll go deep divey here a little bit, okay? Barrel rate of 12.9%, a hard hit rate of over 44%. This dude is getting hit hard, and yet He has yet to pay for what he is putting out there. Last year, when he had a 4.64 ERA, Stormy, he had a better strikeout rate and a better walk rate. And yet here we are, and he is still getting away with murder every single time out. This dude needs to be shelled at some point. So the question is just what? We're going to have our best bets. When I was with you guys last on Wednesday, I had over the 3.5 earned runs. He didn't give up any, if I remember correctly. So at some point, this has to end. This fraudulent start to the season in which this man is marching out there and serving up junk and yet still getting away with it. When does it end? I would say it is today. So let's take another shot. We'll have best bets coming up later, but we'll take another shot. Something, we talked about this with Adam the week that you were out. Remember, you took a trip to Japan in the middle of the NCAA tournament. And we talked about the stubbornness of betting, especially in baseball, a large sample size sport where sometimes the numbers won't come to fruition right away. Yeah. You got to take your lumps sometimes. Yeah. Got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. I'm making that omelet today.
So are you looking not only game-wise, but are you looking at some of the pitcher-specific props?
Yeah, no, like we're not. I think you can. I would say that I would like -1.5 on the run line is tempting proposition. Again, going back to the earned runs for Sagano and going against it there and betting over that 3.5 here for him today too. Especially playing in Colorado, you would assume that if you're going to give up some barrels, you're going to get knocked around and maybe get what you deserve, if you will. I make him sound like he's a terrible person. He's probably fine. But from a pitching standpoint, he's awful. Yeah.
Speaking of vacation, how refreshing was your time off over the weekend?
I may have wanted to fight a police officer. So there was that. Other than that, it was
Clearly,
great.
we spend our time away from work very differently.
I respect every member of law enforcement. That guy was just kind of a jerk. That's a great story that I'm not going to tell on the air. I told you the story.
It was, yeah, you were.
I also
you were not in the wrong.
Yeah, I also wanted to fight a passerby too.
Why are you so aggressive these days?
My life is going well.
Reminder while we talk through all this Major League Baseball action. If you haven't checked out the VSiN Daily Diamond, you absolutely should, because they got sharp daily baseball betting insight all season long. It's Jensen Lewis, it's Dave Ross. They're breaking it all down, lines, totals, props, futures. And you can subscribe to the standalone VSiN Daily Diamond wherever you get your podcasts right now. And while you're there, search VSiN. We'll have our full complement of podcasts, the whole lineup, everything from the NBA and college sports to horse racing and more. You can also find Money Moves there. VSiN is the sports betting network. Also, real quickly, if you miss the news, anybody, Tarek Skubal apparently going to miss multiple months, it appears, with elbow surgery. That news just coming down in the last hour.
Loose bodies in the elbow. Has to have surgery. According to Passan, this is a recovery of 2 to 3 months. So let's see. Yeah, the read verbatim from Passan. Tarek Skubal will undergo surgery to remove loose bodies in his left elbow. Such procedures typically sideline players for 2 to 3 months. Skubal should return before season's end, but a tough blow for the impending free agent and 2-time reigning AL Cy Young winner. Alden Gonzalez also tweeted out partial list of pitchers who have landed on the injured list with arm injuries this year. Skubal, Crochet, Spencer Schwellenbach, Hunter Green, Hunter Brown, Brandon Woodruff, Joe Ryan, Nick Pivetta, Josh Hader, and Edwin Diaz. So a lot of big names here that have been dealing with arm injuries at the beginning portion of the year, which is why I think somebody in the back did this. You don't spend a first overall pick on a pitcher in your fantasy league.
Also worth noting, just real quickly, with Cy Young and that awards market, he was still pretty high up on the odds board, so could present some opportunities for others as well.
Yes, we should bring that up because there is a couple of American League pitchers that I think we're talking about, even when you were talking about Skubal being up there. We also have to bring up your favorite pitcher in Major League Baseball as well.
Who's my favorite pitcher?
One Jansen Junk, who's getting a start today.
Hell of a name. And that actually was a game I was planning on teeing you up on too, because we had such a good conversation about him last week. Okay, we got to step aside. Plenty more still to come here on Money Moves. Stick around.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
NBA postseason has been a blast to this point. Can we continue the fun in round 2 is another question, especially when you have a series favorite out to -1,600. That would be the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are massive favorites against the Los Angeles Lakers. And it is expected to start in game 1 coming up Tuesday night, JVT. Big picture, though, before we get into game 1 specifically in those numbers, what is your feel for this series? Because the favorite in terms of the correct score numbers is OKC to win in a sweep.
Yeah. This will be a series that will be played in the year of our Lord 2026. Basketball will be played, and it'll be a relatively short series. The problem is Luka Doncic doesn't seem to be anywhere near returning for this series. It was reported by Windhorst that was the case. Hasn't really even started the steps to return, not even just practice and 5-on-5 simulations. It sounds like he's barely even running, if that, at this point right now. So if you were to say that Luka Doncic was going to be available or maybe even coming back at some point in this series, you could convince me that this was a series that maybe they could at least extend out a little bit longer. But the fact that he is not going to be out there, you just wonder where this offense is going to come from. This is a team defensively in Oklahoma City that has the pieces along the perimeter to deal with Austin Reeves and others that are lesser shot creators than Reeves. LeBron obviously feeling some fatigue from the series that he just played against Houston. We saw that drop off near the end of that series as well. They're a big team, too, so it's not like LeBron's going to be able to bully them up front. They've got the size at both power forward and center to deal with what they want to, the Lakers can do there. And from a shooting standpoint, it's not the Lakers are a team that are skilled enough to come out, spread you out, and bomb away from three. We saw that issue in the last few games of the series against Houston before they closed that series out, which was they don't shoot a ton of threes, and they don't shoot them particularly well. So it's not like you can go that strategy and just say, hey, let's just play the math battle and see if this works. They don't really have that in their arsenal either. I just think that this sets up for what everybody is expecting, which is a very short series. Maybe OKC comes out, has a downer of a game. The Lakers still won, but my expectation is just what the market is expecting. OKC in 4 as the favorite, and if not, OKC in 5. Those are your top two options, and that seems to be the case.
Yeah, plus 120 the price on the sweep, plus 205 for OKC to win this thing in 5. Did also want to mention, even if Luka Doncic did return in the series, and obviously, if you are a Lakers fan, that's what you would be, or backer, that's what you would be hoping for, and hoping that it would create a positive impact when your lead scorer is back. Worth noting, though, that the Lakers were outscored by 56 points in the 59 minutes that Doncic was on the court against the Thunder. Yeah. So it's not even like that has worked particularly well with him available.
Yeah, and even, too, I think a lot of people would invoke the series in which Luka Doncic, when he was a member of the Dallas Mavericks, beat Oklahoma City in a second-round set against the Thunder years ago. There's a couple of things there. Obviously, this is a younger version of the Oklahoma City Thunder. The other part was P.J. Washington turned into Ray Allen for 4 games and shot about 47% from free at 3 over the course of the series, while the inverse happened for Oklahoma City. They were abysmal from beyond the arc in that series against Dallas. And while Luka was an individual problem, that is, I don't think those two things at least are going to recreate here. And again, he's not available, which is the other big part about this. And it sounds like he won't. Maybe you get him back for game 4, but Stormy, it's Monday, May 4th, and the series starts soon. That's going to be an issue for Luka Doncic and the Lakers.
Are you taking 15.5 on the road, game 1?
No. I just, look, the Suns stayed inside of some of those numbers in those first round series. So you give them credit for that. And OKC has no motivation to blow this team out. So if you're up by that margin or floating around that point spread near the end of a game, you're probably going to be willing to take the foot off the gas and whatever. A win by 12 is a win in a 1-0 series lead, and then a 2-0 series lead, whatever it may be. So there really is no need to extend these margins out. So by that theory, then maybe you can get out there and stay inside of some of these numbers. But do you really want to put yourself in that position? And even if that plays out to the way we're talking about it, wouldn't you rather just be like in game, hey, if this gets out of hand early, get some big inflated numbers to see the Lakers can carve their way back into it as the game goes along.
Yeah, I know the spread is the great equalizer, but even looking at 15.5, it's not like that's something you want to run to the window necessarily and bet fading an OKC team that is more than capable of winning by margin if or when they want to. No team came close, JVT, to OKC's efficiency in the first round. Saw this stat from ESPN Sports Information Group. The gap in their half-court offensive rating between the Thunder and the Knicks, who were number 2, the second best team in this category, was larger than the gap between 2 and 11. That's how good and efficient that they were on that side of the ball. And defensively, I mean, turning turnovers into fast break points. I just feel like they do so many things so well. The other series set to begin coming up Tuesday night. Cavs and Pistons head-to-head after Detroit comes all the way back against the Magic, down 3-1, handle business there. Cleveland, meanwhile, kind of a weird series against Toronto, more back and forth than we expected. Although, as you put a couple of times on the show throughout the last few weeks, maybe we should have expected some of the things that we ended up getting from James Harden, considering the conversations that we've had about it. They are getting 3.5 on the road. Game 1 in Detroit, total 214.5.
Yeah, I don't know why you were so high on Cleveland. Your pre-finals,
Yeah,
or your pre-postseason final
It was all
selection.
me.
This is going to be interesting. So for Detroit, first and foremost, this is such a relief, you would assume, just because Cleveland is not Orlando in terms of defensive intensity. So one would expect that even with the over-reliance on Cade Cunningham to provide some sort of offense, that this is just going to feel like a relief only because you're not going to have to just navigate through these really good and big-bodied defenders almost every single time if you're Cunningham in this Pistons offense. So that's going to help because much more malleable, if you will, defensively your opponent is with Cleveland. The other part of this is for Detroit that might work against them. How are you going to, I guess we'll, for lack of a better term, use it, keep up with Cleveland? Cleveland is a better offensive team. They can shoot the ball, even though they were wildly inconsistent in that series against Toronto. Even to close out the set, they shot 28% on Sunday night. But you would assume that you're going to be able to score if you're Cleveland. So if you're Detroit, you keep up by playing a little bit more Duncan Robinson. If you play Duncan Robinson, well, guess what? That's a big old target for Cleveland to go after every single time down the floor whenever he is playing. So that could be an issue for you too. I think this is going to be a long series for the sake of just sticking with my guns because I believe Cleveland can win and will win the Eastern Conference, and that was the pre-postseason selection. I believe that to be the case. But I do think you're a little worried about the way Detroit can defend. They do at least have some options defensively for your backcourt. We talked about the issues that Toronto didn't really have, although effort-wise they were absolutely great. And then you do wonder what Jalen Duren, what his role is going to be here. This is a big front court for Cleveland as well. You have Evan Mobley, you have Jarrett Allen, who imposes will a little bit more, especially in Game 7 against Toronto. And so will we have another muted series from Jalen Duren? And I think that ultimately kind of makes the difference. I think Cleveland's going to find itself in another slugfest of a series. They played with their food a little bit against Toronto. They should not have had that long series against them. I expect that they're going to be able to win this. I do think this is pretty accurately priced. And you see the number here, 3.5. Pretty much hanging up home court. These are two even teams, and then you go from there and play the zigzag, whatever it may be between them as this goes along.
Cade Cunningham is minus 200 to be the series points leader, which I think is probably appropriate, especially given the conversation that we've had ad nauseum, right? That he is their offense, essentially. That said, if there was somebody else and you were looking for a plus money price, is there some bang for your buck you might be interested in? Donovan Mitchell is obviously the next shortest shot at plus 190, but you get out to 20-1 and beyond for anybody else.
Yeah, so I think the problem is you would need a short series. That was the logic for Josh Hart to lead the first series in rebounding, which was Hart is a good rebounder. Over the larger sample size, he's probably not going to out-rebound Karl-Anthony Towns, but if you get a short series, which is what I initially thought, then if he has one blow-up game, then you're maybe able to sneak in there and get that. So with that example, James Harden at 20-1 does seem somewhat tempting. We know that Harden is capable of the offensive explosions. Do you trust that he's going to be able to do it? The other problem, too, is I think you need a short series. Over the course of 6 or 7 games, do you think that Harden's going to, 20-1, be able to get that done? Probably not. So I think Harden seems tempting on the surface, but that's about it. I don't want any part of anybody else. Tobias Harris, no. Evan Mobley, absolutely not. Any of these guys like Mobley, Duren, Thompson, Ausar Thompson, for example, I would need 500, 600 to 1 for him to lead the series in scoring. I think it's a little mispriced there.
I'm just looking futures wise in general at some of these different series leaders. Wemby in Spurs Timberwolves for rebounds leader, minus 150. Mm-hmm. Is that cheap?
Seems, because you're also facing Rudy Gobert, because that's probably a problem.
So would that be the angle then? Plus 120 on Gobert?
Mm-hmm. You could. I think that's a little bit, I think it's probably more accurately priced than not. I think Wembanyama is he is a better rebounder than Rudy Gobert. So that is I think why that is so cheap on the surface, because you're facing another and a pretty big team at that as well. You can throw 2 bigs out there if you're Minnesota, and guys like Naz Reid can eat up some of those too.
Yeah, obviously I can't read that as well as you can, but at first blush when I saw he was only minus 150 and that, my thought went to I thought that would be more expensive, especially considering some of these other markets where you see the favorite being an even bigger odds-on number than Wemby is in his respective series.
Yeah, it does seem, though, that Western Conference, it seems like we're headed for San Antonio and Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
But Eastern Conference, man, any of these teams that are still alive could really win this thing. And I do think that we're still going to get Cleveland to move on, but Detroit has a new lease on life. I drew a line on them in Pod to the Futures months ago, and it seems like that is going to be potentially incorrect. Sounds
like, though, in big picture for the NBA Finals, even if it's not OKC, the winner feels like it's coming out of the West.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know, especially with the way that Boston got knocked out. And that was the team that most of the East was kind of like saying was going to be the team. Doesn't feel great. Okay, we got to step aside here. Stay with us right here on VSiN.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Closing out this Monday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We'll get to the best bets in a moment, but to get back to Major League Baseball here quickly, and I know there are a couple bets that you have on the diamond tonight. You previewed for our audience earlier, a nice little tease that you wanted to dive into Jansen Junk, and the Marlins are hosting the Phillies today. It's a pick'em, minus 110 each way, total 8.5. Junk versus Aaron Nola. What are you feeling?
I just wonder if Jansen Junk can continue to do this. He has been a favorite of ours. We've talked about him a couple of times. A pretty admirable start to the season, over 33 innings and 6 starts so far for Junk. Strikeout rate's down from last year. Walk rate is up, but giving up slightly fewer home runs, getting somewhat lucky on the balls in play. A 3 ERA, a 3.48 fielding independent. Can he keep it up today against the Philadelphia Phillies and Aaron Nola, who is off to a pretty poor start himself? Now, couple of issues here. First off, getting unlucky. Opponents hitting about 350 against Nola when they put the ball in play. It's a little below average. And while the command rate is down so far this year, he's walking more guys. The real thing that has stuck out, and it kind of ties the last few years of Nola's career, is having some issues with the long ball, getting taken deep with some frequency. So if you can correct that a little bit, maybe Nola comes back down to earth. Worth pointing out, his expected fielding independent for the season at 370. So with some better luck on these fly balls, maybe you can revert back to the mean if you're Aaron Nola in some of these starts. But you just wonder if your boy Junk is getting the respect he deserves, given the way that he's been playing and the way that he's been pitching. But I don't know if I'm like running to the window, but it's just worth observing here for Junk to see if he can keep it up. Because he's also, as all of these pitchers do at times, he does have a couple of we'll call them blemishes on the resume for the most part. There was 2 starts. It was against Detroit and then Milwaukee, road and home, give up 7 over the course of 10 in the third, looked a lot more mortal. And he's just not a dominant strikeout guy. So if that command starts to wane a little bit here today, then all of a sudden you're not going to be in a position to get yourself out of those jams without being able to generate swings and misses.
Regardless, everybody's favorite name in baseball. We know that for sure.
Yes, I would go with Moises Ballesteros, which is the young rookie catcher for the Chicago Cubs,
team, right?
Who's on my fantasy team and is like plus 750 to win National League Rookie of the Year. It might be worth a little bit of a stab.
You like him more than you like his name.
He's been very productive for a team that has fallen by the wayside.
While we were talking pitchers, though, I did want to say, and we couldn't end up doing it today because of the Tarek Skubal news, but our producer, Justin Emery, something that we're going to keep up with more throughout the course of the baseball season is something he's been tracking, these half-inning Nerfy parlays that he's been putting together. He started it this past week, been successful, and so we were going to try to bring it today, but Skubal was a part of the parlay, so it didn't end up coming together. But basically, he has been doing a good job of collecting and compiling information. He has a daily tracker logging first innings for each team and player, K-prop records, projections that are from Opta AI, Ballpark Pal, and all of these other places to put together his favorite picks that make the most sense for a parlay. So we'll have graphics for it regularly and put them together, but today just fell to the wayside a little bit. The other 2 legs of the 3-leg parlay prior to having to eliminate Skubal from this, though, was Cam Schlittler against the Baltimore Orioles today. And then what was the other one that he had? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Oh, it's on the screen. Randy Vasquez today for the Padres against San Francisco. He was contemplating adding your boy, Jose Soriano, but because of weather elements, elected not to have that as a piece. But I think you take that for what it is.
You ruined the juju. Justin told you not to mention this, and now the juju is done. It's over with.
He didn't tell me not to mention it. When did he tell me not to mention it?
When Skubal got scratched. Now the magic is done.
He did not say don't mention it.
I remember it differently.
You're lying. And you're trying to make me feel bad.
Does our audience want to hear what happened, or do they want to hear how I remember it?
See, there we go. That's what you're delivering. Let's get to the bets today. And we have a little bit of a strange recap before we add today because you were out the end of the week and as was I, but I still came on and gave picks. But anyways, we'll go through it. For me, it's funny when I was on with Mike Somich on Thursday. We're at the end of the show, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I didn't have anything that I really particularly loved. You were? Why?
I don't know. I had nothing going on.
You took time off and listened to the show?
Yeah. Because unlike you, I care about the program.
I don't know. I think
unlike you, I don't just detach for 2.5 weeks.
I think you just need to get out more. However, I threw in at the end. I was like, I'm just going to fire on the Knicks. Why not for Game 6?
Because I found myself as I was listening to you, you were going, Mike, should I do this? Should I bet on this, Mike? I don't know if I should. You know what? I'm just going to do it, which is what you do like every single day.
Let me live my life.
I even said out loud to myself, just do it. Like every time.
And I did. And then I ended up texting him at halftime of the game and was like, I hope I'm not cursing myself here, but pretty glad I added Knicks -2.5 today after what was just an absolute blowout. The Blue Jays play, however, did not go to plan. We cashed both of the picks given out on Friday for the Montreal-Tampa series, first period under 1.5 and the under for the full game. 5.5 comes through. And then we finally grade the Oilers-Ducks series bet, which did not come to fruition.
Okay. All right, for me, quite a bit of recap here. First off, from Wednesday, you will see a familiar name because we're going to go at him again a little bit later here. But Tomoyuki Sagano does not get there. Over 3.5 earned runs. It was about plus 120. He, I think, pitched a shutout, if I remember correctly. Knights that day, money line minus 155. Cavaliers team total over 113.5. Magic plus 10.5 got there Wednesday. And then we have our first round recap. Cavs Raptors under 5.5 games does not get there. T-Wolves Nuggets over 5.5 games minus 135 does, as does the Knicks minus 1.5 games. And then the small quarter unit play on Josh Hart, series rebound leader. We had a shot, but we ultimately could not get there. So a lengthy recap, but successful nonetheless. So we can hopefully keep this going into Monday.
Okay, looking forward to tonight because I will be broadcasting the Ducks Golden Knights game. I can't have a play on that one, but I do like the under 5.5
journalistic
Canes
integrity
Flyers tonight. Why you put it in air quotes? It's true to an extent, at least, because it's still funny that I'm like allowed to give picks on the NHL, but not series that I could be touching. It's like a whole thing. However, Canes Flyers under 5.5. I haven't done anything Eastern Conference reporter wise, so it's fair game. This is a series in all that I think is going to be lower scoring. Obviously, we saw that in game 1 with a 3-0 shutout. I think the Canes defensively are going to be a problem. The PK is going to be a problem. And the way that Freddie Anderson has turned things around from the regular season to the postseason pairs into that. Flyers also missing one of their top goal scorers who's day-to-day and just didn't seem to have the jump, I think, similar to round 1 for both of them. Lower scoring series in all for both of them in the first round. And I think we'll have the same thing here in the second.
Okay, like it. For me, also somewhat of a lengthy list, some series bets in here as well. We'll start with tonight. 76ers plus 7.5 against the New York Knickerbockers. I do believe that the 76ers would be a little undervalued here. Maybe some playing against the aspect, or the pricing maybe playing against the aspect of them coming off of a Game 7. But I do think that they're going to be fine after a day off to come in and take on New York. It's not like they're traveling all around the world. It's all pretty tight up there. Knicks, 76ers, over 5.5 games in the series, minus 130. Thought this was a pretty fair price. Again, to the point of them being somewhat mispriced. Don't think that this should be favored. I think it should be a small dog to go over 5.5 games. I would be surprised if either of these teams were to end this thing in 5. I think these two teams are very tight in terms of power rating with one another. This has been moving all over the place as well, and this comes after the news that Anthony Edwards is going to give it a go tonight, but Timberwolves plus 2.5 games against the San Antonio Spurs. I actually got this at a price over 2-1, then adjusted for the show because it was plus 155 after the news that Edwards might play. A little bit more adjusted now that it sounds like he's going to play, but still Timberwolves plus 2.5 games, plus 155, and then 2 in Major League Baseball, tying into the same angle here. Mets run line minus 1.5, plus 105, and Tomoyuki Sagano over 3.5 earned runs, plus 112. This fraud will pay for his transgressions in one of these starts, and I think it starts today.
Okay. Which series do you feel like you have the most confidence in?
None of them.
Really?
Just like your children, you like them all equally.
I don't believe that, though.
76ers.
That's not true. You have
76ers.
always said that? Okay.
76. I don't think I've always said that.
No, for yourself.
It's not an idiom.
You've stood
that I rely on.
Not comparing series to your children, but you have stood by the fact that like you like your children equally. And I don't know if I believe that.
Well, because you come from a broken home in which you were the favorite, which is, of course, shocker. Stormy was the favorite in her family. That comes as a surprise considering what I know about you. So just because that transpired in your home does not mean it transpires in other homes.
I don't know. You hear Coach Prime saying he ranks his children. I thought that was just like the first I think everyone
has a
really
great
favorite.
example
they just
to
don't.
use. Look, it's a normal thing. Look,
it was
Deion
just the first
Sanders
one
family.
that came to mind. I'm just saying that I think everyone in their head probably has a favorite. They just don't say it out loud because that's being a good parent. Is not
for one
saying
day,
it.
would love to see life through your eyes.
What does that even mean?
Puppies and sunshine and rainbows, and everybody comes on. It's like, Stormy, you do such a great job.
Stop. Why are you so people
awesome.
compliment you too? I've done nothing but compliment you, and all you do is ridicule me. I don't know what I did to deserve this.
You live a golden life.
I don't know about that. I feel terrible today. So hopefully
you tell our audience
it
you're
gets
dealing with?
back together. No.
Got a little food poisoning
No.
from a local establishment.
It's not true. I will say, though, tonight, if you have the opportunity, if you are a YouTube TV person, we've talked about this a lot over the last week, that we have the pick your own quad box situation. You can have 76ers Knicks, Timberwolves Spurs, Golden Knights Ducks, and VSiN all up at the same time on YouTube TV tonight. So make sure you do it.
And then you can take pictures of Stormy on the TV and say, hey, look, it's Stormy,
Oh my
everybody.
God, what is wrong with you? I'm so glad this show's over. I got things to do, people
I just
to see.
want to say, like,
I
you've
gotta
done
head over to
like
T-Mobile
30
Arena.
million games. They don't need to keep sending you pictures. They'd be like, I see you on TV. Yes, she does it for a living. See?
Don't people send you pictures of you?
No.
All right, that's a wrap for us today. Yes, they do. Follow the Money coming up next. Paulie Howard and Dustin Sweetelson today, locked and loaded for the next 3 hours.